Hey guys, I just want to spend a couple minutes talking about the ethical challenge on the job interview questions. Again, what I do is I just read down through the discussion board, and as I read things, I type up a comment or two, something I just wouldn't mind talking about here, and that is my feedback on everything that you guys have talked about. So I think one of the first questions that came up, or one of the first things I thought to mention is the question about the GPA. You know, what was your college GPA or something like that. I don't think it's an unethical question. It's perfectly fine for them to know that information. I don't think that there's any moral compromise there, but I do think that it's strange because, first of all, if their GPA matters, which I really don't think that GPA matters all that much depending when you're getting a job, but if their GPA does matter, then the degree that you have is also going to matter. And so if that matters, you're going to have to provide your transcripts to the company that's potentially going to employ you, and they can just grab your GPA from there. I think that asking a question about their GPA is just kind of pointless in an interview because it doesn't really tell you all that much about the applicant. You know, of course, as you guys know, a lot of different things are factored into your GPA. So does that mean, you might have gotten all A's in the courses that are for your major and the thing that you're going to study? You might have 10 years of experience, or 5 even, and maybe you have a low GPA because history wasn't your thing, and English, or whatever, that doesn't matter for your job. So I don't really think that the GPA question, no one's ever asked me what my GPA was, and my degree did matter, that I had the credential to do my job, but Cody is right. I think it should be worded differently. What were some of the challenges in school? I imagine this question will come up if you're taking an entry-level job right after college. So what challenges did you face in school? How did you overcome them? Those are the types of questions that are going to speak more to how you will be as a candidate or as an employee, as opposed to just how smart are you? Because I don't even think your GPA reflects your intelligence. So also there was some talk about what about the salary question? And Keith, toward the very end of the discussion, brought up the point that I'm making here, and explained it very well. It's fine for them to ask you the salary, and I think that it's possible that it could happen. Actually, no one's ever asked me what salary I expect, but also I work for the state government, so they're we don't care what you want, here's what you get. And I think that a lot of the times that's the case. Now, the higher up you go, the more that the salary is probably going to be negotiable, but starting out entry level, salary is probably not very negotiable. And so if it isn't, they're not going to ask you, but they could ask you, because I think that it also reflects your preparedness. And so if they ask you what salary you expect, and you say $80,000, but that's absurd, and no one in your role would ever make $80,000, then that might just show that you don't really understand the job that you're going into, or you haven't researched it enough, or something like that. On the same flip side, if you say $20,000 a year and it's a $50,000 a year job, hopefully they don't take you up on that. Hopefully they would have the ethics to say, well, we would at least offer you 45 or something like that. But it again shows that you don't know that much about a job. Now, if the job is right around 40,000 and you ask for 42 or 45, then that makes a little bit more sense. So I think that is perfectly fine. And also, if you're going into a management position and they ask you about salary and you don't negotiate, but your role as a manager would be negotiating, then maybe there's something they're trying to find out. Do you have negotiation skills? Are they effective? I can't think off the top of my head what, maybe sales, if you're going into sales or something. Okay. Oh, Cody makes a really good point. In an interview, when you're being interviewed, of course, that's the opportunity for the company to figure out who you are, but also it should be an opportunity for you to figure out who the company is as well. So if you are being asked these really unethical questions, and I think that there were probably 7 out of the 10 that were the most unethical, and some of them completely illegal, actually. But if you are being asked these questions and you think that it's being asked in a way that that's going to end up discriminating against you in terms of whether you want to be a parent or what your religion is, or if you're married or not, or how flexible you are, whatever, then I think you would probably want to consider, like, do I want to work for a company that it gives me this impression from the start? Because what is lying underneath all of this, how, like, it sounds like a crappy place to work, to be honest. Or the job interviewer just doesn't know what they're doing and doesn't realize what are the most appropriate questions to ask. So there could always be a harmless intent behind it, but still, some of these questions are illegal and they should know that. Most of the time, HR will give an interviewer a script of questions. They will have pre-planned the questions that they're going to ask you, and they will run those questions by HR to make sure that they can legally ask them. And so you're not likely to have to face some of these questions, but you never know. I mean, of course, that's not always the case. So I would say if you get asked this list of questions, I wouldn't take the job. That's easier said than done, and I recognize that because sometimes we have to make sacrifices and compromises in order to put food on the table, and I totally get that, but I would definitely be thinking about that as you're going through the interview process. I think, like Kita, these interview questions about tattoos are a bit strange to me. So my approach to this is, do you have any tattoos? Okay, well, if you're sitting there looking at the person, assuming this isn't a phone interview, if you're looking at the person and they're dressed appropriately and they're not, they're dressed wearing what they would normally wear to work, right? So it shouldn't matter. If you don't see any tattoos, then it doesn't matter whether they have tattoos or not, because, okay, let's say that one of your candidates has a tattoo on their thigh. Are they going to be exposing their thigh at work? I don't think so, not unless you're like a swimming instructor. But if you can see that the person is wearing clothes that they would wear to work, then their tattoos shouldn't matter. I think that this question can make someone really uncomfortable, and I don't know. I think someone said tattoos are less taboo now, and I think that that's true as well. All right. Oops, went up. So the tattoo question reminds me that there are a lot of interview questions that seem kind of harmless, like who cares if you ask someone about their tattoos, but it could actually end up making someone uncomfortable. I mean, imagine they have a tattoo somewhere like they don't want to tell you about, and then they either just have to be prepared to say like no because it doesn't matter, they're never going to see that, or in the moment, like, that you could put them in a compromising position by asking that question. So I don't know. So like I said before, and Anastasia brings this point up as well, some of these questions are actually illegal. At the bottom of this page, I've given you guys a link to questions that are completely federally, like by federal law, 100% illegal. You cannot ask about them. You cannot ask someone if they're a legal citizen. Things that are particularly related to some of the questions in our list from that discussion. Are you married? Do you have children? If so, what do you do for childcare? Are you planning to have children soon? Have you ever been divorced? Where is your spouse employed? These questions are not only not acceptable to ask, they are downright illegal. You cannot ask these questions. There are some like disability status questions. There's also the religion question. What is your religion? Are you practicing? And I think that this speaks to the question of, let's see, I'm not really sure if I reflected this in a comment somewhere. But the question of like, do you need days off for your religion? That question is probably illegal as well. Because so if someone says yes, and then you don't hire them, are you discriminating against them based on their religion? Because that's a protected class according to Title VII. And so you can't discriminate. Like, it's hot water you could get yourself into because it could lead to discrimination. That's why these questions are illegal. Juliet's passion about taking care of children question is phenomenal, and I would encourage you all to go back and read that. I just really liked it. She was mad at the computer that day, I think. I don't remember, Keith, what question you're responding to, which is the downfall of me doing my replies this way, but sometimes you can rephrase these questions. Here's the thing. If the questions are genuine, because they're trying to find something out about you, there's something different that they can ask that's not illegal and that's not going to make someone feel uncomfortable. So in terms of sickness, childcare, taking days off to practice religion, whatever, first of all, why does that matter? If it's not being asked in order to discriminate against someone, maybe the question or the concern lies with, are you able to do your job? If you have to miss work, what are your strategies for staying on top of your assignments or your duties or something like that? And so if that's really what you want to know, then ask what you want to know. Don't try to assume, and you shouldn't be put in a position where an employer or potential employer is trying to assume who you are. Those questions should just be specific. And I don't know, I feel strongly about that. I think all of these questions could have been reworded. Regarding the benefits package, Marley replied to Sarah and said that, I think, and I could be wrong on this, I have to go back and check, that her husband was asked a question about participating in a program. I think the better question is, do you have any questions about the benefits we offer? Because if the person has questions, if they want to join the program, they need paperwork or whatever, then they can reach out in that process. But also, those questions, finding that paperwork, whatever, should come, I think, after this individual has already received the job, and they can go through human resources in order to find out about benefits and learn more. There is like a health section on here, I thought. Maybe I'm wrong. But anyway, so I think that maybe the questions don't really matter. Like whether someone participates in a benefits package, and in this case, the weight loss package, shouldn't necessarily be a reason as to why they get the job or not, right? And if it is, again, I think it comes back to my point above, like, do you really want to work there? Oh, here is, okay, so like even though last week we talked about companies have to make provisions for your religion, they can't legally ask you about your religion because it could lead to religious discrimination during the hiring process. After the fact, it's probably a little bit different. The concept here is that you don't want to accidentally not hire someone because of one of those protected classes from Title VII. You can't not hire someone for their religion, for their sexual orientation, for their, I think the word is gender and sex now, I'm not sure, for race, for country of origin, for things like that. And I think Brianna used a really good word for some of these questions. Some of them that are not downright illegal are definitely still kind of risky because it puts you and the company in a weird situation. So what about you? What if you're in an interview and you don't, you get asked these questions? You can either answer it if you think that the question was asked naively and you don't feel uncomfortable answering it. You legally can answer the question. You can sidestep it. You can just kind of like go around the question in order to get at something that reflects you as an employee, or you can directly question the relevance. Here, I think the phrasing is kind of like, okay, why is that relevant to my position here? Or you could even say, I don't think that's a legal interview question. So know your rights as someone who's getting interviewed. And if you guys have any questions about this, just let me know.